Oakland Unified School District is terminating the contract of Black School Superintendent Kyla Johnson-Trammell. NBC Bay Area reports the board took action on Wednesday to approve a voluntary separation. And L.A. Mayor Karen Bass, who is black, is kicking off the next phase of renovations at the L.A. International Airport. Bass says the $5 billion worth of new contracts in this phase is all about small and minority-owned businesses. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
It's now time for Let's Elevate, the Arnie and Carey Show with Arnie Filko and Cary Grant.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everybody.
This is Arnie Filko.
And this is Cary Grant
and
from
we are
Draft Central.
Draft Central. We are in studio tonight.
Oh, okay.
Wait, I'm being told to do something. What?
Right there, the line. Right there.
This?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was going to get to that. I'll get to that. Man alive. We haven't even said 3 words. And,
you know about me in the draft?
Yeah, I know.
We know it's important.
No.
We know
All
it's
right,
important.
I'm going to read this. We'll do this. It says twice per show. So here's number 1. Be sure to join Grant Cary. Is that how you pronounce it?
Okay.
I think that's how. And Phil and Justin tonight at 7 p.m. for the NFL Draft edition of the Sports Report to find out who the black and gold will be drafting in this year's draft. It's all going down tonight at 7 p.m. on WBOK, Facebook, YouTube, and WBOK1230.com. All right, we've satisfied our first requirement.
All right.
Cary and I are actually watching, and we're an hour away from the NFL Draft, but we are watching the scenes from Green Bay, Wisconsin, literally 12 miles from my hometown.
And appropriately a green carpet.
A very green carpet. And, it's going to be a fun evening, I will tell you. As soon as we finish our show, I am going to be running home and sitting on the couch all night.
Right.
And
making my picks.
and seeing what happens.
Yes.
But it really is a beautiful scene. They projected 250,000 people coming to the smallest community in all of sports, professional sports, and it looks wonderful. I wish I could be there, to be honest. I'm a little envious, but you know what? The show has to be the priority.
Absolutely.
So we are here tonight, and we'll talk a lot of things. We're going to talk some NFL. We're going to talk the draft. Want to talk a little bit about the legislature. We really haven't spent much time in that.
Yeah.
You know, they're a week or so into the session now,
right.
and so we'll mention some of the stuff that's coming out of Baton Rouge. But I kind of want to start, Cary, talking about kind of where we are as a country right now relative to kind of global affairs and also even some of the domestic affairs.
Right.
I am really concerned. And this isn't just, to hype radio or anything. I mean, this country in literally 3 months has changed direction in ways that I think, I'm hoping it's a majority, but many, many Americans could not ever have projected a year or 2, 3 years ago.
I think the polling data is showing exactly what you're saying, Arnie. This whiplash is starting to catch up with the administration. And, it's like being a bus driver. Franklin Roosevelt used to say, and the people on the bus are really worried about where they're headed. I don't think this is really a movement that had a lot to do with MAGA on a lot of terms and a lot of other things. I don't think they were even behind a lot of the things that are going on and that are happening in this 100 days.
Yeah, I mean, just to give everybody an idea today, I mean, I follow the news very closely with Ukraine, and part of it is I work with a national organization called Razom, which is a great organization. We've had some of their people here in studio.
Right.
And, I got an email this morning that, I mean, literally their staff last night was sitting in bomb shelters all night.
Oh, wow.
Kyiv was attacked in a vicious way last night with hundreds of missiles and drones and things. And, already the reports of the number of dead and injured, is significant. And, so they asked Trump today, They said, what are you doing? He put, now let me give him some credit first, okay? I mean, does he want a ceasefire? Yes, I believe he does.
Yeah.
Does he want the killing to stop? I believe he does. Was he irritated with Russia and Putin for what they did when he's been trying to talk peace?
Right.
Yes, I think he was sincere, that he was probably both surprised and, I hope it's okay to say, they were pissed off, that Russia did what they did. But then they asked him, well, Mr. President, what have you done to ask Russia to make concessions towards a peace agreement? And what has Russia done here? Because it seems to be very one-sided.
One-sided, definitely one-sided.
I mean, it's all Ukraine make concession.
Yeah.
And the president's answer was, I was flabbergasted, okay? And I think most people were. His answer was, well, they want peace, and number two, they haven't yet taken all of Ukraine.
Right.
Now, think about that answer. That is the most ridiculous, idiotic answer I've ever heard. First of all, Russia didn't not go after the whole of Ukraine.
Right.
They were defeated in that effort
stopped
to take Ukraine.
Right. If they had done it, they would be there.
Exactly.
Yes.
Had the Ukrainians not put up a tremendous fight here over 3 years, I mean, Russia would be sitting in all of Ukraine. So that's ridiculous. But if Trump and the administration really believes that is a concession of some kind, and that is part of what Russia's giving up, that they haven't used their great might to take over the entire country. I don't know what's going on in this guy's head.
No. And one thing people have to understand is Russia is really a fourth-rate power, which is why they're having trouble with this country, which until we really gave aid that got there, put up a hell of a fight, as you said, Arnie. They put up literally supposedly stopping this huge army, but they had them at a standstill before we start helping. So that's why he couldn't overrun the country to begin with. So,
and they're in a much worse position now.
Today,
They've lost more than 500,000 Russian soldiers.
Right.
Their heavy military has been depleted significantly, which is why they're going to China and Iran in order to get equipment.
Right.
They had to go to North Korea to supplement their soldiers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The price of oil, which, as you know, based upon the tariffs, the price of oil is down to $60 a barrel.
Right.
That's Russia's main source of the economy.
Right.
So that is killing them.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest, I think a lot of people still hold on to this belief that the Russians have something on Trump. Okay, I still there's a theory of people that believe that. But I want to suggest something much different than that tonight. And again, part of this show for the listening audience is we're going to try to bring up some topics and elevate a discussion that you may not hear in New Orleans on the radio. Okay, and I hope people will be interested because it's darn important here. And I invite everybody 504-582-9422 to call in and give us your thoughts. Carey,
and from a local perspective, just to add to that, what we want to make sure people understand is that everything's interconnected in this global society. It's not just about the horrors of war, which is bad enough, but it literally is about commerce. It's about everything is interconnected. Farmers here in the state have to understand that no foreign trade, because of all these problems, causes them to lose money. It causes them to go broke.
Right.
It causes... And that trickles down throughout all of society. No tax dollars means no health care, means no, so these things do have an impact on people.
And I'm going to try to bring them home a little bit, both on global affairs and on domestic affairs. I'm not one that likes to use the comparison of Nazi Germany because that was the lowest point in the history of mankind, okay? And I don't think there's any appropriate comparison analogy that can be drawn, but are there similarities? And I have to say, as somebody that really is a historian, likes to study what happened in Europe and Germany in the early 30s before even Hitler came to power.
Right.
There was a transition going on in Germany and in some other countries, Italy as well. but there was a transition going on to really change the face of government, the face of what had been in many ways a democratic society,
Yeah.
a very highly intelligent society.
Yes.
But Hitler seized on the fact that the people were down because of the loss in World War I.
Right.
They had lost their pride. They had lost territory. The economy was
They had
bad,
economic issues,
which the whole
inflation
world was going
and
through,
depression,
the
and-
Great Depression.
Right. Exactly.
And he saw an opening to change basically the society.
Right.
So I want to bring that forward here because in many ways, I think that's happening here, not only in the United States, it's happening
In
around
lots
the
of
world
countries,
right now.
right.
The world has become, in the last 5 to 10 years, when you look at who's being elected in some of the countries, the world has turned in many ways to the far right, which is what National Socialism was with the Nazis.
Yes.
It was a far right. I mean, just so people know, now today we use socialism and compare with the left.
Right.
Okay, in Germany, it was
with the
opposite.
right.
It was with the right.
Right.
In many countries in Europe today, you can look at France, you can look at Germany, you can look at what potentially could be happening in a country like Romania, Hungary with Viktor Orban.
Right.
The countries are turning to right-wing politics. And when our vice president went to Germany a month ago, and it was interesting because I had a breakfast meeting with the deputy consul of Germany. He's in town yesterday.
Oh, okay.
And we were talking about what's happening in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what was the reaction of Vance giving the speech he gave to Germany? And just to remind people, it was at a highly respected conference, a Munich Security Conference,
Right.
and the vice president gave up for the first time ever in history, and said to the group, "We and you Europeans should be moving to the right. We should not be trying to quiet them. We should be respecting the right."
Yeah.
And we brought it up on the show some weeks ago, but in many ways he was speaking to a populace similar to MAGA here in the United States,
Right.
that was saying you're being treated wrongly. Other people are dominating you. Okay, the economy is killing you, and we're going to bring this into racial terms because you get into DEI, you get into replacement theory, you get into anti-Semitism.
Right.
There's undercurrents of all of that.
Yeah.
And I really believe that what is happening in America and around the world right now is a movement different than democracy. Okay, in fact, it's the antithesis of democracy. It's autocratic government. It's authoritarian government.
Right.
It's strongman government.
Right.
And really, that's what Vance said. And it went over the head of most Americans because, it got couched in the terms of the Ukraine war and other stuff. But I want us to think, and we're going to talk about this and come back a little bit. This is completely against where America has been.
Yes.
Okay, over its history. Now, have there been efforts in the history of the United States to go far right, isolationist, kind of MAGA-like policies? There have been. There's a great book called America Right, in fact, that if people are interested, really goes back 100 years into American history. But this is not the Republican Party that you and I know, you and I grew up with.
Right. No, not at all.
Those were conservatives.
Yeah.
They were leaned right on their politics, but they were for free trade.
Yes.
They were for intervening internationally when America's interests were being affected and other countries were being demonized.
Yeah.
You name it, just totally different than what the isolationist movement of MAGA is today. And MAGA in the United States is AfD party in Germany.
Yeah.
It's the right-wing party in France, okay,
Right.
that Marie Le Pen and her father ran up until just recently. It's what's happening in the Romanian election. Not quite as much in Italy, although that's a far-right government as well right now. We are seeing a complete shift of international affairs that is affecting America. And
Yes.
the reason I'm really scared about this, Carey, and I've really been thinking about this, is, when you put our foreign policy together, I mean, when you literally cannot protect a country attacked by another country, side with the attacking country,
Right.
make them the good guys.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to wonder what is the world is going on, but then put it together with what's happening in America.
Yeah.
Our immigration policies, our deportation policies,
Right.
our efforts to eliminate anything involving DEI, reading and education,
Science.
science.
Yeah.
I understand it. But I guess my question is, when does America wake up?
Yeah.
Because there are polls out there. 80% of Americans are on the side of Ukraine versus Russia. Okay.
Right.
I believe that if they polled some of the other areas, okay,
Yeah.
I think Americans generally would not be supportive of the Trump policy. I think the one exception may be immigration.
They pretty much aren't, even with that, because of how it's being handled.
Right, that's right.
The pushback is starting to happen, like you said, Arnie. And I think the fact that like the universities are banding together to fight is a good sign. The courts are starting to wake up. I mean, even some Trump appointees, these judges are like, this is just too far. And it's what you said, but I mean, there needs to be a lot more of that because, as I always say, these things are a slippery slope. If you go down one edge of the slope, you just keep going. And that's what happened literally in Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
It just became a rolling stone,
right.
and it went downhill really quickly.
Well, that's where I think the comparisons are, and really my question, and we talk about this after the break and when we come back. But my questions are twofold. One is, when do our elected leaders in Washington, because those are the people that have the ability to put a stop to this.
Right.
When do they start to talk and rise up? When do we get so over the top that even Republican elected leaders who are afraid of being primaried and are supportive of MAGA, when do they? And the other is, when do the people speak about it? And I don't mean the you and I are of a like mind. I mean, we're Democrats. I think we share a lot of the views. There's been hands-off rallies literally all over the country for every weekend now.
Yes.
But I want to know where the 49% that voted for our current president, when do they say enough is enough? Not only about their own pocketbook,
right,
which I think it's starting
that's
to hit home.
Start, yeah.
But all of these other things, all of the inhumanity, the lack of compassion for other people, the foreign policy of supporting dictators and autocrats. I want to know when average Joe on the streets of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, says, you know what, I voted for Trump. I liked him because of the economy. Biden was too old. He didn't do anything for me. I want to know when average Joe says enough is enough.
If
Carey.
he thought he was, and I think a lot of people mistaken patriotism for a lot of bluster and stuff like that. But if you are a patriot, you don't believe in half of the things that are happening, because half of the things that are happening are weakening the country and making us much more vulnerable.
Right.
And I think that's where they need to start waking up.
Well, patriotism used to be on the side of Republicans.
That's
that was always Democrats were too weak. They were always fighting. They were Republicans were always standing up for America and for what was right around the world. Think about how that's completely reversed itself right now.
It really is. It really is. And it's very strange and inexplicable that people are still saying, I support this, because you can't support all of this. I mean, it's going to affect your life no matter how you slice it.
Yeah.
And like I keep saying, the more vulnerable we are, the more likely something bad is to happen on our shores as well.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to come back and talk about this a little bit more. We'll cover some other topics tonight as well. But again, this is for our listening audience. This is a really important issue, and it's an issue that people got to start talking about,
Yes.
got to talk to others about,
Yes.
got to write articles, got to do a lot of things here. And hopefully, again, those average Joes that we referenced just a minute ago, are going to start to see this in a different light as well. We'll be back on the other side, 504-582-9422. Give us a call. We would really love to hear your thoughts and how this affects you, and where do you think our country is really going in the coming weeks and years.
That's right. It's party time each and every Sunday night at 7 p.m. on WBOK. It's the Throwback Throwdown with DJ Wick as he brings you the best in old school from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2Ks. Plus, the party goes to another level at 9 p.m. with the Throwback Throwdown Party Mix to round out the night. It's the Throwback Throwdown Sunday nights at 7 p.m. on WBOK 1230 a.m. and on the World Wide Web at WBOK1230.com.
New Orleans, are you ready for a voice that says what you're thinking? Who that, you might ask? Arrington Gavin. That's right, I'm your guy, host of the Arrington Gavin Show. And I'm so excited to announce that I'm coming to WBOK, giving you so much filled with bold opinions, real conversations, and zero sugarcoating. We're going to be diving into the issues that matter, politics, pop culture, and all the above, unfiltered and unafraid. So, starting May 5th, catch the Arrington Gavin Show, weeknights from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Fridays, right here on WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about.
On last week's From the Press Box to Press Row with Donald Ware.
For the Commanders, when we talk about great receivers in the National Football League, we rarely talk about Terry McLaurin. 5 straight years of 1,000 yards receiving, and even in his first season, he had like 920 yards receiving. So this is a guy that, since he's come into the National Football League, that has also gotten it done. But really, the key to the Commanders this year has really been Jaden Daniels and some of the things that he's been able to do, why this team is in the position that it's in.
From the Press Box to Press Row is one of the hottest sports talk shows in the country. Join Donald each week as he takes you on a journey through the world of HBCU sports and pro sports and interviews with top sports and entertainment figures. That's From the Press Box to Press Row.
Fridays on WBOK 1230 a.m. What New Orleans is talking about.
WBOK online at WBOK1230.com.
The Arnie and Carey Show with Arnie Philco and Cary Grant.
All right,
We're back.
Just to kind of finish up the topic for a couple more minutes, and then we're going to get off to some other stuff here. I know a lot of people probably listening saying, why am I worried about what's happening internationally and foreign affairs and all of that? And again, this isn't just about international stuff. This is about the whole ball of wax that's happening. I mean, You realize, Cary, next week is the 100-day mark.
Yes.
All right. I mean, it's hard to believe.
Sounds like
it
it's
feels
1,000 days.
Years. Yeah. But
Yes.
I mean, our country in 100 days has gone to crap. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's not an America that most of us ever would have visualized in so many different areas. I mean, it's funny. I was listening to another station today, and a woman called up who calls that station a lot, who is an absolute mega 100%. Trump could do no wrong. And she got up and says, I got to admit, I'm starting to question my vote. I lived in a FEMA trailer for 6 months after Katrina, and I thank God that we had FEMA.
Right.
This guy's trying to take FEMA down now.
Well,
okay?
look at the governor of Arkansas, Huckabee, who used to work for him. She's basically saying, she's begging him to get aid to them, especially after these most recent storms. It's like, and he's just like, no. It's like, well, what are they supposed to do? I mean, what are they supposed to do as a state?
I mean, it's just, this stuff makes no sense unless you put it together with what we talked about before, which is what Trump and Vance and others are doing. And I'm not going to give any lenience here to some of the cabinet members. They have become just suck up.
No, they're not
idiots.
Yeah,
I mean, I look at Marco Rubio, who just literally a year or two ago issued he filed for an amendment on something involving Ukraine that said we should never, ever allow Ukraine to go down to defeat and to support Russia. Right. He's 183.
He was instrumental in bipartisan support for Ukraine, which is amazing. You go from bipartisan support, and I'm going to be in the front as a cheerleader, to nothing matters anymore.
And
it doesn't matter.
Walsh was too.
Yes.
Okay. I think those two, when they came into the cabinet, I had probably the most hope for those two because they had been mainstream Republicans.
Yeah.
Okay. But they weren't crazy MAGA.
No.
When you look at our defense minister now, and you look at our health minister, these were unqualified people.
Totally unqualified people.
But Rubio and Walsh, for example,
had qualifications.
Did have qualifications. Even the Treasury Secretary came with some decent qualifications. Yeah. And you're just kind of wondering, first of all, if I'm Rubio, who had been insulted, if you remember,
little Marco.
Been insulted, little Marco, back in the campaign. Yeah. When do you
wake up
in the morning and say, "Man, I have to have some principle in my life"?
Well, and what I always say about Congress, particularly these guys as well, since they were in Congress, is kowtow into somebody like Trump in this bullying tactics, and you're gonna be thrown out of office anyway, pretty much, because either you're gonna have your supporters are gonna hate you, who are supporting you now because of things going wrong, or you're going to be thrown out because Trump's going to bring somebody even more of an acolyte. So it's like, I don't think anybody's safe. I think that's what's going to happen to Cassidy here. It's already happening. And now he's like, well, what about Robert Kennedy? You should not have voted for him. Yeah. You should have. If you did that, the people of Louisiana might be looking at you differently from the other side of the aisle, not just from your side of the aisle. I don't think they think about, there are other people who can elect you as well, not just.
Well, and there were some rumors in the paper yesterday that Ludlow, one of our congresswomen from the northern, well, it's a gerrymandered district now, so it's all over, but that she's contemplating a run against Cassidy for senator. Look, I don't know where some of our folks have gone. I've known Steve Scalise for many years. Mm-hmm. I always viewed Steve. I never agreed with his policies. Yeah. But I always thought he was a very decent man. Still believe he's a decent man. But it's time for him to. I know he doesn't want to give up his leadership in the Republic. He's the number 2 guy. Get all of that. But at some point, you gotta stand for something principled.
And that's what I'm driving at, is that I don't know what these people are going to get out of this except this momentary stuff that is working for them, like Mike Johnson or whatever you're getting out of it, where you're living at, you're flying on the front of the plane, whatever you're doing. But you're not going to long-term have any of this stuff. It's just not going to work out. And for the people of Louisiana to have people in the leadership like that, in a administration that has both houses of Congress and everything, they have the Speaker of the House and everything, and we're sitting here as a state saying a third of our budget may be gone. That's the craziest thing that may have ever happened in the history of the federal government, that you have the Speaker of the House, the leadership, the majority leader, and you can't get anything for your own state. It's just incredible. It's incredible.
It is. It is. And it speaks to the issue of why people run for office.
Right.
Look, if all you want to do is be in office in order to stay in office and keep getting reelected, then you know what? You don't deserve to be in leadership.
Office, right?
All right, because people elect you because they believe that you're going to help make their life better.
If your constituents are crying out for help on the issue you talked about, Arnie, if they're crying out for the Ukraine, if your constituent, you should be fighting for the Ukraine. If your constituents are crying out for their health care not to be cut, you should be the first person standing in line saying, don't cut health care. We don't care what your rhetoric is. My people who are at home who pulled the lever are saying they want this to stay like this. And that's what I'm hearing and seeing in all these polls. Every time they interview somebody on TV, they're worried as hell about their lives.
Yeah.
And they don't seem like they're representatives. But
I want to see Cary. I think that's true. I think, anecdotally, yes, some of that is true. But I really want to see, not only Louisiana, but elsewhere within the country, I want to see people start to get out and say, this is not what I voted for.
No.
If this is what Trump and MAGA represents in the second term, then I don't want it anymore.
Right.
Then in the midterms, I'm going to vote Democratic because I want to be able to at least dilute some of the power
Right.
so
Put
that
some
they don't control every
put the
level
guardrails
of
back
government
up.
here.
Yeah, put the guardrails back up.
Yeah,
I mean,
put the guardrails back up.
Because they've come down a bit, but I mean, I think that the pushback is making people wonder. I mean, I think some people are trying to break the chain. Even when Alito, who's a true MAGA acolyte on the Supreme Court, is saying Trump's going too far. That's a message from my point of view. That
It is.
Here's a guy saying, come on, slow down. This is too much.
It might be that Ukraine is the topic that maybe pulls people over
because
the edge.
it has more general support. I agree. Yeah.
I mean, when you have people like Trump and Vance make statements that Ukraine invaded Russia or or that Russia
People
is
know
doing
that's not
the
true.
world a favor because they're not taking over Ukraine and that's a concession. I mean, look, Americans are not stupid people.
No.
Okay, they even in international affairs. They can see
They knew what happened.
BS from reality.
They knew
here.
what happened. Yes.
So, all right. Well, look, we will follow this. We will talk about this because it's important. But we have craziness in New Orleans also.
As always.
This isn't necessarily crazy, but the headlines this morning was the Sewage and Water Board has a new executive director.
Right.
They hired a gentleman named Randy Heyman, who is the chief executive of the Philadelphia Water Department, as the next executive director of New Orleans Sewage and Water Board. He is a lawyer, graduated with a law degree from Georgetown University, and has led Philadelphia's basically comparative department for the past 6 years, earning a pretty nice salary. They bumped his salary quite a bit.
Wow.
He is now making $427,000, whereas this predecessor here in New Orleans was $377,000. What kind of drew my attention to the article was a couple things. First of all, you and I didn't work as closely with them, but you did.
Yeah.
Our former executive director, who everybody, I have to say, I think had great respect for him, came from Milwaukee, inherited a system that obviously is antiquated, has a lot of problems to it, but I think did a pretty yeoman's job of trying to keep Sewage and Water Board moving in a positive direction.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah. I think that he did the best he could with what was there. I think that it's been like that for a long time. My own brother was over there at one point.
Yeah.
It's just the infrastructure of it is very tough, but I think we're finally moving the needle in the direction that a lot of people have tried to move that needle in.
Right, and there are some important things on the horizon for sewage and
like
water.
the power plant and all those kind of things.
I mean, the only thing I didn't understand is, and maybe I'm too much, swayed a little bit by the divided vote. It was a 4-3 vote, which usually when you hire a leader of anything, you would like to see kind of a unified, unanimous vote.
Right.
That didn't happen here. There were 3 members that wanted to go in a different direction. And I guess, we're sitting here at almost the beginning of May.
Yeah.
We have an election for the mayor coming up in October, and the new mayor will take over after the first of the year.
Right.
The mayor currently under the system is the president of the Sewage and Water Board. I'm just wondering why we couldn't have waited here. I mean, one of the comments that really kind of said a lot was by Councilmember Geruso, which he said, I'm wondering why one of the internal candidates, couldn't have moved to the finalist position.
Yeah.
Because this guy, Steve Nelson, who's the current general superintendent, apparently has a lot of respect of people.
Yes.
You certainly could have had a gentleman like that or a team of a couple over there, been named as an interim director for 6 months, and maybe let the new mayor lead the search as the president of Sewage and Water Board, for the next person. Because obviously whoever is the next mayor, now is
going to have
to work with this person, good or bad. This person's moving here from another city.
And there's a big learning curve. I mean, I think that this almost, and I don't know how long they've been looking for this person. But there's a big learning curve because, of course, our water system is different than anything in the world practically, and our drainage and everything. And I think that, this man may be highly qualified, but don't know that much about him, but it's going to be a learning curve. And we're bringing somebody in at it never would be a good time, but at the rainy season that we have here, just like the other day when we had flooding, we didn't even expect to have rain that day. And, the hurricane season coming up and
it's not
trying
a
to
great time.
trying to bring this power plant online, all these different things. And I think that if you had just, like you said, even if Garvin had waited until the end of the year to retire or whatever, it seems like he retired. He wasn't ousted or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't, I don't know why, but I mean, you could have at least let the process work while you were still here, or like you said, have an interim person be in charge while this process was going on.
Yeah.
To lay it at the new mayor's feet. I think that would have been a better way of doing it, to say, here's the options. What do you think?
I mean, I just think we're so close to the new mayor coming in, and this is a hugely important position in the city.
Absolutely.
That you would, in the normal situation, you'd like your new mayor to have to be the one to make the decision of who he or she is going to work with for a number of years. And, it didn't happen here. But this is not in any way, by the way, to denigrate Mr. Heyman.
No, not at all.
We're bringing a lot of Philly people in. We got our head coach from the Saints and from Philly.
Maybe he had something to do with the interview.
Maybe this is his first recruit. I don't know. But in any event, I just thought that was rather interesting. I was on a Jazz Fest today, and great day, by the way. I love Rockin' Doopsie. Short story, when I moved to New Orleans my first year, the Saints were doing a lot in the military. Yeah. And I got invited to go with Rockin' to Fort Hood in Texas.
Oh, wow.
And he put on a show. And we had the Saints-sations and all that. It was a lot of fun. But he is one of the nicest human beings.
Oh, yeah, he's a great guy.
And I'm sure everybody listening have seen him many times. He puts on the most energetic show.
I don't know where the guy gets it from.
I don't know. He does that split. Okay? Every time I see that, it's like, oh. But, he ain't a spring chicken, but he can move though. He definitely can move, and he's been doing that for years. A lot of local people today because it was kind of a local day, half price and everything, and but there were some media reports about the security. Security, you could really see it. Before you could get in, you saw a lot of plastic barriers. You saw some of the concrete barriers.
Yeah, that's what I'm putting them down.
I mean, they were very serious about this.
That's good.
And I think that's really good.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. There's quite a lot of people that go out there, and nobody can be too safe in any of these situations. And this is a great event. We don't want to have anything happen to it.
We don't. And after you saw what happened in French Quarter Fest on the Sunday, now you can't control some things. I mean, you can't control some guy who has a gun and just is going to decide to unload. Okay, but I think they do a good job, and you have to go through the magnetic stuff before you get in.
Yeah.
But I hope people will enjoy it. I was thinking about this today. I mean, what city in the world, Thursday afternoon or Thursday morning, 11 o'clock?
Yeah.
I mean, thousands and thousands of people in line to go hear musicians all day, to eat great food. I mean, we know about Mardi Gras, Tuesday and Mardi Gras in New Orleans.
Oh, yeah.
But Jazz Fest is a little bit like that, too. It's a special day here.
You could tell, I mean, on my way over to the station, I mean, I could see the traffic was a little light because I think people were like, well, this is the beginning of the weekend. I'm going to start doing that and enjoying myself. So, I'm glad. And I'm glad to see it's going to be hot, but it's going to be good weather, so it won't be a downpour or anything like that. It looks like it should be okay.
I mean, it's hot, but
people are used to that.
You got different tents and shade areas.
These people here are so prepared for this. I mean, with your Jazz Fest shirt that you wear every year, and your hat that you wear, and your spot in your chair, and they have all kinds of equipment. I mean, I've heard so many Jazz Fest stories in the last few days about what I have and what I bring.
Well, I took my daughter. This is her first Jazz Fest she's ever been to, and we were talking about food.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what do you want? And we ended up with crawfish bread, which was awesome. And we had some others. I'm saving my money for next weekend because the soft shell po'
crap.
boy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, Carey. But it was $21.
Wow.
And I'm thinking that's a little bit expensive, but you got
people
for
do,
those that like that.
They've been saving up all year.
Exactly. You break the piggy bank and go get a po'
Got your
boy
Jazz
with that.
Fest account that you put your money aside.
Well, we'll the last few minutes we're going to talk some sports here because tonight's a sports night.
Yes.
I wanted to talk about a couple things. I saw a bill that in Baton Rouge that was filed by Representative Freiberg from Baton Rouge, and basically it would change the funding system of our school system.
Yeah.
Right now, funding is tied to students.
Yeah.
This would tie funding to attendance because we're having big problems in New Orleans and in other parts of the state of kids not going to school, truancy and other problems. So this bill is trying to address that.
Yeah.
The opponents of this bill have really said this is really going to hurt the minority community and the lower income community because, look, a lot of the absences is economic related. It's a mother who works 2 jobs, 3 jobs, whose child is sick, whose car breakdown, and they can't get them to school that day, and that there would really be an effect in a detrimental way, on the African American community and under privileged communities.
Right.
The more I thought about that, that's really true.
Yeah. I mean, it seems weird too because it's been based on student numbers. Those types of things have been based on student numbers forever. I mean, I don't think it was something that was broken. I don't know why you're fixing it in that way. And like you said, it's going to skew it in a way that just will be unfair to systems that are already struggling.
Yeah. I mean, it's I don't think there is any until ill intent by the author. I think she is trying to address a real problem.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure this is the way to go. Apparently, 24 states provide funding based upon average daily membership, which is defined as the number of students enrolled on the count date, plus those in attendance in the 10 days prior. And some of the states have done some deviations so that it's not so it's in an effort to try to mitigate the effect of it. But I think this is probably one of those ideas where the idea of how to solve a problem and the desire to solve a problem is a good one. I'm just not sure this is the
way to do it, right?
Yeah. So we'll have to follow this stuff. For anybody interested, this is House Bill 185, and I don't believe that it has gone to committee yet. We will check that and kind of follow it ourselves. But, it's important for people to really watch every day the bills, for people that may not understand the process. And I know you know that, Carey, but when a bill is filed, first of all, this is a fiscal session.
Right. So
members of the legislature, most of the things they're going to take up are money related.
Issues,
okay. But they can file, I think it's up to 5 bills
on other things.
For other things.
Yeah.
So in order to have a bill pass here, it has to go to a committee first, either House or Senate.
Right.
If it gets passed out of the committee, it then it goes to the full House or Senate.
Right.
If it passes out of there, it comes back to the other body, goes to committee again.
Yes.
And then if it gets out of committee, goes to the other house. And if it passes then you have a law and it goes to the governors.
Yeah.
If one house changes it, then it has to go back to the other chamber in order to concur with it,
right,
or to make other changes. So it go back and forth and such. And then ultimately, when you have all of that, it gets in front of the governor. But the point I'm trying to make is there's a long process. A bill doesn't, just
it
happen
doesn't
overnight.
go straight through, right?
So when you see stuff that's filed or see stuff in the news that's hitting a committee,
right,
pay attention to it, follow it. It's pretty easy to get out of committees for the most part. Okay, the road hits the rubber, or the rubber hits the road when it gets to that next step of going in front of the House.
And you have to pay attention to the legislature because there's lots of stuff that goes on there that you may not like. There's also that part. So I saw today that they passed something that about the teacher pay putting it on the ballot again, but by itself in the format it should have been in the last time it was out there.
Yeah.
It's a good idea and probably should pass.
$2,000 for teachers, $1,000 for staff. And, but you're right. It may not apply right away. It's got to go to the vote of the people, which could, be next year or maybe in the fall. So I would hope that they would actually, in this session, allocate that $2,000 or $1,000 out of the state budget now. Yeah. And then they can come back and do the vote
put the
after
thing
that.
to set it up permanently.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would like that. Yeah. We got to take a break here. We'll be back in just a minute. Again, 504-582-9422. On the other end, we're going to talk. Our producer will love this. We're going to talk sports.
On the next edition of The Way Forward, we continue the Advancing Southeast Louisiana series with a conversation with the Chancellor of Nunez Community College, Dr. Tina Tinney. Join me on The Way Forward this weekend on WBOK 1230 AM or streaming live at WBOK1230.com in the Play-Ode app. It's The Way Forward with yours truly, Eddie Francis, Saturday, 3 p.m. on WBOK. What New Orleans is talking about.
Missed a show? Want to hear that guest everyone's talking about? WBOK is now streaming on all your favorite podcast apps. Just search WBOK Media, hit download, share with a friend, and don't forget to rate your favorite shows 5 stars, because when our voices are heard, our impact grows.
Hey, WBOK, Ryan Richardson here, host of a new show called Conversations with Ryan Richardson. Join me every Saturday live from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. as we sit down and discuss mental health, disability, drug addiction, and everyday life issues. If you're ready to have a real conversation, let's get it started, New Orleans. Every Saturday from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. right here on WBOK and streaming worldwide on WBOK1230.com.
Hey, this is D. Riley from the 90s Hits R&B Jams. Make sure you listen to WBOK 1230 AM every Saturday night from 7 until 9 p.m. I'll be giving you the best R&B jams from the 90s. That's right, all your favorites and more. With me, D. Riley, your host of the 90s Hits, right here on WBOK 1230 AM. Or listen online at WBOK1230.com. WBOK, the station you listen to longer.
Get in on the conversation at 504-582-9422.
The Arnie and Carey Show with Arnie Philco and Cary Grant.
All right, we are back, everyone. Carey and I are we're looking at the TV. I think I can't tell because the sound's off, but it looks like they're doing the national anthem. And what a sight, man! I am all that green and gold, and I'm looking for black and gold. I'm sure there are some there.
They're in there somewhere.
We got to find out. Yeah, I got to tell you, this is a funny. We talk sports, but this is a funny sports story. Tennis player apologizes for deodorant request. British tennis player Harriet Dart has apologized after asking the chair umpire to tell her opponent to put on deodorant because she smells really bad. Dart lost 6-0, 6-3 to French player Louise Boisson in the first round of the Rouen Open last week. And she said during a changeover to the umpire, "Can you tell my opponent to wear deodorant? She smells really bad." After the footage spread on social media, Dart posted an apology on Instagram. The other player, Boisson, who made her first tour appearance of the season and is working her way back from injury, gave a lighthearted response by posting a photo of her with a deodorant edited above her head. That's hilarious.
My God. That's why I don't watch tennis, Arnie.
No, I hear you. Well, big night tonight. For everybody that loves NFL, I know in New Orleans, we love football here. This is really the beginning of the 2025
football
season.
year.
Football is here.
Yes.
We'll have the rookies in camp next week.
Yeah.
OTAs start. Before you know it, players will be coming to training camp here. And first
a whole new
preseason
team
game.
and staff and everything.
Yeah.
Some old players, but maybe in new roles because this is a new regime.
Yeah. I think that there really is some optimism and hope for Saints fans. I think this is an important night.
Absolutely.
For every team, but I think especially the Saints, because given the salary cap situation, I mean, they're going to have to build this team through the draft for the next couple of years.
Right.
And they're going to have
need some good long-term talent.
Yeah, some good long-term talent.
No swings for the fences.
And when you're drafting at number 9, you know, that's a high draft pick.
Right.
You gotta succeed on that. Okay.
Absolutely.
And that player really needs to be a mainstay for the next decade here.
Right.
Okay. I saw today they declined the 5th-year option.
Yeah, of Trevor. Penning.
Trevor Penning.
Yeah.
Right. Which probably wasn't unexpected. It doesn't mean they're giving up on him.
No.
But I think they want to see this season.
Him really
Is
produce.
he really going to bring it? Okay.
Right.
And then they did give Olave. They did exercise the 5th-year option, and I think they see that guy.
He's a great player.
Part of the future.
He's a great player. Yeah.
But it'll be really fun tonight. You know, you and I said before the show started, this is the first time that I can remember in a draft all 32 teams
have a first-round
draft pick.
So there's going to be some moves made. I guarantee you that.
Exactly.
Watch for that guy at number 32 from Philadelphia. He's always up to something.
He is there.
He'll probably be in spot 1 by the time tonight. So
they're really good, too. It's amazing.
He is something else.
It's always amazing to me how the Super Bowl champions, the Chiefs, the Patriots, when they were winning, the Eagles, at 32, they always got an impact player.
Right.
And now their team's drafting at 16. You know, 2 years later, the first-round draft pick is out of the league.
Right, exactly.
So,
it's a lot different.
It is, but it'll be fun. I think everybody's kind of watching. I think we're going to, you know, the first pick, I think Tennessee is going to take Cam Ward. That's pretty much consensus.
That's pretty obvious.
But I think the draft starts at pick number 2 and 3.
Yes.
And what happens, you know.
Those two teams may trade down, trade out. I mean, they don't need a quarterback. I think they're looking for quarterbacks who are established more than somebody because this is the thinnest quarterback draft in probably the last 10 years. They really don't have a deep bench of people that you could really go for in the top 3 picks.
They don't, but look, it's a crapshoot. Even people evaluating.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers was taken to 23.
Yes.
Who would have ever believed that he could have done what he's been able to do? Okay. You really don't know. I mean, look at Drew Brees.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was in the 2nd round.
Exactly. So
it turned out to be a great player.
So you really don't know, and it could be that, you know, teams like the Giants and the Browns, I mean, they're building their team, and they would be smart probably not to go quarterback.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if they feel they can't compete with what they got right now, you know, they may reach a little bit.
You're right.
And they may really like a certain player in the style. You know, from the Saints' perspective, I think you and I and everybody else in this community probably hopes they don't draft a quarterback at number 9.
Not at 9.
But hope they do come back.
Yeah.
And, you know, because there are a couple quarterbacks in this draft that, you know, I think the guy from Alabama, to me, is just intriguing.
Yeah.
Because it's a guy I think you could work with, and he has such natural speed and athletic ability. I mean, when you look at Lamar Jackson, I mean, he's a pretty good passer now, okay?
Yeah.
But he wasn't that way when he first came into the league.
He had to learn.
And but his athletic skills were off the chart.
Yeah.
And, you know, I could see that guy from Alabama.
Somebody's going to grab him. I think and they'll be pleasantly surprised. Like you said, I think the real gem of this first round is Jackson Dart, though, from Ole Miss.
From a quarterback.
Because he is a flat-out quarterback, big, tough guy, and he played with Lane Kiffin, who a lot of people don't like, but who is an offensive guru. So, I mean, he has a lot of upside to me. And, I mean, if you were going to do something, if you were the Saints, move back, trade some people, do whatever, but get somewhere in the middle of the first round and go for this guy. You know,
although the Saints, Mickey Loomis hates to move back. Saints have always gone in the opposite direction of moving up. They've always been aggressive.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't. But they've and you know they haven't picked a quarterback in the first round since Archie Manning.
Right.
I heard that. And
That's why I'm saying this, because it's another Ole Miss guy. So once every 53 years, you pick an Ole Miss guy.
Okay.
That's my logic, Arnie.
I don't know that Tiger fans are all that enthralled about that idea.
That's better than Mel Kiper's logic. I mean, but look, last year, if I would have been drafting for the Saints last year, I would have literally done anything to get Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. Well, all right. I promised a second reading. Don't cut me off yet. Now I got to do this reading here. All right. Be sure to stay with us tonight after our show here because it's 7 o'clock. Grant, Phil, and Justin are going to be on for the NFL Draft Edition of the Sports Report. Find out who the Black and Gold and other teams are going to be drafting. It's all going down in just a couple minutes on WBOK, Facebook, YouTube, and WBOK1230.com online. So we will know. Tuesday we can debate, we can argue, we can see if the Saints improved themselves. We'll know by the end of the day Saturday. But anyway, everybody enjoy a great weekend. I have to tell you, this is maybe the most fun weekend of the year. NFL Draft,
time.
Jazz Fest,
NBA
golf
playoffs.
tournament, NBA tournament, all kinds of wonderful things. Go out, enjoy yourself, be safe, be healthy, have a really great weekend, and stay tuned. Don't
turn the dial.
Don't turn the dial off. Listen, because it's 7 o'clock. Draft coverage is going to start. Good night, everyone.
Have a great weekend. Good night, everybody.